What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ink, Drink, Think, episode 26. Tonight, in honor of Amazon Prime's new series, Invincible, 5 comic book artists are sitting down to discuss and draw Robert Kirkman's superhero epic. Johnny was trying to wave, but we're going to go over to him in a second. Guys, I'm your host, Michael Pickard, and as always, I'm joined by my wonderfully talented co-hosts and friends, Johnny Wise.
I'm Johnny. I don't know why you said I was trying to wave. I was succeeding in waving.
Fully waved.
Trying to distract.
It was a good wave. It was enthusiastic. All right. Yep. So we're doing Invincible. Kind of an aftermath of when he has killed all of the Guardians of the Globe. And I kind of took a bit of an artistic liberty with it because I seem to remember in the comic he just spoilers by the way, he just kind of rips all their heads off. I've done a bit of that, but I've just got just carnage all around him. The fish guy, he's pulled his head off and put it on a spike. Yeah, I had some fun with it. I'm excited to get to inking it.
I'm excited to see your Invincible drawing when we flip around and showcase what we're drawing tonight. The fans are going to love it. But guys, joining us as well, fellow co-host and friend, Nate Wells.
Hey guys, Nate Wells. I'm a new Invincible fan as of a few days ago, so I really only have a few issues. I've probably read 20 issues or so of the book to draw from. So I am drawing Invincible just in a pile of rubble. He's just got the shit kicked out of him, probably by someone very close to him. It's like a full page. There's a whole other panel along with this big image because I just loved the first time on the show when I drew a full page. It worked out so well.
Of course, Invincible is right up your alley. It's got all of the fun superhero dynamics and of course the violence, which you're incorporating a little thing that you do well, which is rubble in your piece tonight. So it's gonna be great. People are gonna love it, and I'm excited to see you work on it. But guys, joining us as well, it's Omni-Man himself. It's Todd Blackwood.
Hey everybody. I am a total newbie to Invincible. I was aware of it, and that's about all I can tell you. I love the art. But what can I say? I've got a lot of catching up to do. So I went pretty traditional with my
nice.
So there's the underdrawing that I'm going to be working from.
Great anatomy.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. And then I basically tried to make it like a cover that I'm going to integrate it into. And this is my, God, I got to get a better setup here. But that's the setup I'm going to am doing. And I can't decide what the background's going to be. Maybe a cityscape, or I do like the black fading into the background.
I like the black.
Yeah.
See what happens. We'll see how it turns out. Should be interesting.
Well, with you, that's never in question. It's always interesting. But guys, like I said before, I'm your host, Michael Pickard. I'm also drawing Invincible tonight, doing a scene between him and a certain character named Omni-Man. If you haven't read the book or seen the new Amazon Prime series, you should probably go check that out before this, because there might be a spoiler here and there during this discussion. But joining us tonight, guys, it is a special guest. It is Matt PEREIRA, who is a Portuguese comic book artist who has been nothing but a friend to the podcast since we started. Matt has been sharing all of our posts. He's been liking everything. Matt is a trooper, but on top of that, he's a phenomenal artist. So without further ado, guys, Matthew PEREIRA.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Matt, Portuguese comic book artist, and tonight I'm drawing Invincible, killing Superman.
Love it. Love it.
Nice. Wow.
That's great, man. Yeah, you showed us your pencils before we got started, and I was like, is that really Omni-Man or Superman? But now that you confirm it's Superman, spot on. Yeah, man, it's exciting, and I'm so happy to have you here tonight. We've been trying to get you on for a while now, and the fact that it's happening on Invincible as an episode nonetheless, because you're such a big fan, I'm such a big fan. The two guys above and below me right now who are starting to read it are huge fans, and of course, Todd doesn't know anything about it, but we're all quite excited to get into it. So without further ado, guys, let's get into Invincible. But guys, I'm a huge Invincible fan. I've read the entire series front to back several times. I own at least a third of the entire 144 issue run in floppies, in individual issues. I'm a big fan, and I gotta know, are you guys fans of Invincible?
Yeah, new fan,
Yeah.
but I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. That's my big takeaway from the book so far is it's an enormous amount of superhero fun.
And violence.
And ultra violence. Gotta love the old ultra violence.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Well, I mean, I haven't read a lot of it, but I started reading it when I was like 15 maybe, and then just sort of didn't pick it up for a while, and I'm picking it up again now. But yeah, the ultra violence was definitely what I was drawn to at that age. But yeah, big fan. I like how much of it there is, even though that's probably why I stopped reading it, because I realized it was a bit of a project. But yeah, it's good to pick up a superhero book and know that with that kind of content there's a lot, and it just seems to build and build.
But there's also like an end to it, unlike a lot of other superhero fare.
Yeah,
it is building
huge,
to
but it does
something.
end. Yeah.
Well, for that reason, that's one of the books that I recommend to people to get into comics with the most, because it has a lot of familiar tropes with comic books, superheroes, sci-fi. But on top of all of that, it's a conclusive story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you can follow through all the way to it. And then from that point on, you've read 150 issues of comic books. Like, you're a comic book nerd. You can go and read anything at that point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's more like a TV show than it is like a soap opera, like like your DC and Marvel books are. Yeah, it's more like a series, like, I mean, name it, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Friends, It's not like The Young and the Restless that'll just never ever go away. Guiding Light. Actually, I think that one's canceled. Excuse me. Days of Our Lives, that was my mom's favorite. Yeah, Batman is Days of Our Lives, and Invincible is Breaking Bad. That's a horrible comparison, but I'm gonna make it.
Wow.
I like it. Good.
I think it's a pretty apt one to be said. Yeah, Invincible for me was one of the first books I got into when I got into comics. The Flash being the first, but Invincible really intrigued me. It was the first Image comic I'd ever read. I started at issue 103, I believe. And then I picked that up and went, oh, this is incredible, and I need to know everything that happened beforehand. So I inevitably went back and read all of the volumes and whatnot. But from 103 to the end at 144, I was a diehard fan picking it up in my my pull box. And Matt, I know you're a big fan of Invincible too. You were saying to us right before we started that Invincible was one of your first comics that you read, American comics.
Yeah, I started reading it when I was 11. It was my first real comic book superhero series.
Oh wow!
Wow. So it is a
But
big
in
deal.
France,
Wow.
I started to read in French, but they released the three first books in 2006, but the four released in 2010.
Was the violence something that was that a big deal then? Was that something you were like your parents were worried about or anything?
Yeah, what I like it's the fact that the characters are relatable.
Relatable. Yeah, absolutely. The characters are really flawed people from start to finish. And I think that helps make them more consistent throughout, as opposed to being like Superman, who is like a beacon of optimism and hope. None of the characters are really that same way. Like Invincible, even as your protagonist, has moments of doubt within himself and depression. That really helps sell who these people are.
Yeah. And I like the relationships between the characters, between the mom and Mark.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think doesn't get touched upon a lot, but the relationship between Mark's nuclear family feels very authentic. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, that's his mom and she loves him, unconditionally. Like, she's a human being with her own issues as well that she's dealing with throughout the course of the series. And
Yeah, that's something I've just come across, the big reveal that like maybe like Omni-Man's not like a super stand-up dude. I know that there's like more coming with that guy, but that's where I'm at in the story, and like her reactions to it, and they seem really authentic. She seems like a very broken person that just doesn't want to deal with it, and that means like even like not being the perfect mom that day. And that's kind of great.
it actually brings us into the second question I wanted to ask you guys, which was one, whether you have seen the new Invincible cartoon on Amazon Prime, and secondly, adaptations as a whole for comic books are not something new, whether it's in cartoon or live action or video games for that matter. But I think that this new show is one of the best adaptations of something I've ever seen. It flies through the story at a solid pace, and it edits out the things that aren't necessary for a cohesive story,
Nice.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Yeah, the pace of it is really good. The stuff they've changed, I think, works really well. Like, and it's a lot of it is just minor storyline stuff that they've changed. It just improves the pace for a TV show, and I also was struck by the fact that like Mark is not as accomplished right off the bat in the show. In the series, it feels like as soon as he gets his powers, he doesn't need loads of training. He kind of learns as he goes, and
he's a badass.
Fucking great, yeah. Whereas in the and that works for the comic, I think. But then in the show, it's good to see him like struggle a lot more and kind of fuck up, and he's not always like the absolute best one in the room, which I think works.
Yeah, it's funny. A friend of mine at my day job asked me today, weirdly enough, if I had watched a show called Invincible, and I said no, I haven't. I did watch like the first 10 minutes of the first episode. And I turned it off because I was like, I haven't read that much, and I want to read it before I see it. But we were talking a little bit about the show, and I kind of like got the same sort of like image of the show that you guys were just describing from him, because he was like, oh, like, and then this happens, and I was like, oh, that was like a little bit different in the book. But it sounds like, and I'm just going off of his description and what I have read, that they have trimmed the fat from the comics and done things, even in one instance that he told me about, like added things that make sense for a television adaptation of a show. Like he talked about when Omni-Man murders the Guardians of the Globe and how it was this great fight scene. And I was like, it's not really a great fight scene in the book.
Yeah.
They kind of just get like murked.
Yeah, they just get fucking destroyed. I think that is really good. Yeah. Again, yeah, you're right. In the comic, it's amazing. The impact it has is that he just like, these are their best superheroes, and he just fucking kills them all without any effort. And then again, in the series, I think it works really well that there is a lot more effort on his part, and it is this big fight scene that kind of leaves him pretty fucked up.
Kirkman's probably got more experience with television than just about any other guy that's still working in comics in a sense. So like if anybody's gonna learn from years of Walking Dead and how to streamline something for television, it'd probably be him. Be really interesting to hear him talk about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he doesn't have that much to do with it. I don't know.
Well, he actually wrote the first episode of the animated series.
Oh, he did?
He
That's
did.
Awesome.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's very much involved with it.
I love it when I see recognizable names from comics on animation,
Yeah.
When I see Warren Ellis or J.M. DeMatteis on Justice League or whatever, I was like, oh, these are the people that should be writing this stuff.
Yeah, I am rereading Invincible for probably the third time right now with my girlfriend Alyssa, who has refused to watch it up to this point. But we are...
I was going to ask. Well, I was going to ask if you convinced her to watch it. Speaking of trying to convince people, I was curious if she got into it via your suggestion.
Well, that's the fun part of it, is that I've been trying to get her to read the comic for years now. And it wasn't until the show was coming out that I was like, hey, you should probably read the book with me beforehand. Not just because you want to spend time with your beloved boyfriend, but also because it's going to be more interesting to see how it adapts things and changes things as opposed to just this is the story, you know, because it's the second telling of it. And so we've been rereading the book together. Like I said, I'm rereading it her first time. But we watched the show and she's absolutely hooked, which I knew she would be because Invincible is an absolutely great comic. Yeah. But
that's awesome.
She was very reductive. I've said this to you guys before, that she was very reductive in saying, well, I know his dad's bad, so why do I have to read it? I was like, that's literally the first 10 issues of a 144 issue comic book. It's an expansive story that really subverts your expectations, where it starts off as a teenage superhero story and then becomes this sprawling galactic epic. But I know people in this podcast have not finished the book yet, but it's truly an epic comic book, and so she's really enjoying it so far.
Have you finished it, Matt?
Yeah, I read all the comic.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it, and I really wasn't expecting to read more than a few issues and go like, yeah, that's really good, and probably not really continue, but I think I'm going to.
Yeah, same.
I do really love this series. It's very near and dear to my heart, and not just because I grew up with reading it, because it was one of the first comics I ever really got into, but it's just a beautiful story with a lot of heart. And Matt, you touched upon it at the beginning of the episode in saying the characters are so relatable, and I think that's what makes it so evergreen, is that the issues they face aren't like like situational. I'm in high school and I'm dealing with these problems. And it's not like that for 144 issues. Like, you can start the book when you're in high school, for example, and read it up through when you're a young adult or an adult, and follow Mark as he goes through things in life and parallel it to your own life. In a way that you can't with Peter Parker, for example, you know? Like Peter Parker, if you started reading him in the 60s as a teenager, and then when you got to the 90s, for example, like he's married and whatnot, you're like, okay, he's kind of at the same point in his life that I am. He's not anymore. You know, if you were reading Spider-Man as a 15-year-old in the 60s, Spider-Man is still a 30-year-old who's like living a bachelor lifestyle. But Invincible doesn't have that same hiccup. You can really follow the character through your own life and parallel it on some level. Or if you're older than the character, reflect on it and sympathize with the things that he's going through and experiencing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite character from where you are in the series, whether you finished the book like Matt and I have, or if you're just watching the show so far, or if you're just a couple issues in like some of you guys are? Who are some of your favorite characters in the series?
Man, I like Alan, man.
Oh yeah. Alan is great.
I like Alan a lot.
Yeah, Alan is great. I'm excited to see more of Alan.
He's the alien?
Yeah, he is an alien.
I read the Wikipedia.
Todd did his homework.
I tried.
I was actually going to include onto that question to you guys the fact that the designs by Cory Walker and Ryan Ottley are just incredible in this book. Maybe not just from a personal level of like, oh, I really love the character of Adam Eve, but what costumes do you guys really love in this series? Because there's a lot to love.
Yeah, so that kind of leads into my character pick. I was going to say, and I've only seen him show up in one issue so far, but I know he is a recurring character. Battle Beast is design-wise very, very cool. And I just like that I guess it helps to know that he's going to show up again. But just the fact that he shows up in that bit where, again, spoilers, maybe I shouldn't say, but basically just
Nah, you're good.
yeah, just the fact that you think he's going to be one of the other kind of throwaway villains they have in that scene, and then he's very clearly not. I really like that.
That's awesome.
Like, it's very clear immediately that there's a lot more to him than there is to all of the other villains they have in that bit.
I'm very partial to Omni-Man and Invincible's designs. I think they're so standout. And Omni-Man being this stand-in for the Superman archetype, I think works really well. And he does have that red and blue color scheme, but it's off. You know, it's cyan and it's like a darker reddish color. It's not like a bright, vibrant red. It's a beautiful costume.
I do think it's rare when a superhero can pull off a mustache. I think that's a really tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Is
We're
it like
all
a
not built for
storyline
it.
element? They all have mustaches, right?
Yeah, all of Omni-Man's species, the Viltrums, have mustaches. All of the men do.
Wow. That's hysterical.
Yeah, Mike, you're looking a little sus. You thought we weren't going to mention that mustache you're rocking today.
Yeah.
Listen,
Where's that come from, Mike?
I said to you guys before, when the Viltrum Empire calls, you're all dead. You are nothing to me.
Yeah.
But until then, we can be really close friends. But up until that point, you are nothing to me. Yeah, and we're talking about it right now. But even as just one of the first parts of the entire sprawling epic that is Invincible, Omni-Man, Nolan Grayson, is one of my all-time favorite comic book characters. And I won't go too far into it because, again, certain hosts on the podcast haven't gotten to the points yet where I can reference, but his arc throughout the whole series is phenomenal. And it is reductive, like I was saying about Alyssa calling out that, well, I know his dad turns out to be bad. That's literally so surface level to what happens through this character's life in the comic. It's really an awesome story about a father and a son and their conflicts with one another. But oh man, yeah, I'm a big Omni-Man fan, and not just because he has a mustache. We talked about this as well. One of the things I really appreciate about the Amazon series so far is the adaptation and changing of costumes and designs. And one thing that I don't think has aged quite well is Adam Eve's design in the comic, which is very traditionally scantily clad.
Yeah.
There's a lot revealing in that costume, which I don't think works for a teenage girl who's crime fighting. But in the new Amazon Prime series, they make an appropriate adjustment to the costume and giving her shorts, where it looks more like athletic wear than it does, a one-piece bikini.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I like the costume, like the original costume. But I think certainly in modernizing it, you've got to make that step, and it is appropriate to do that. Not that it's a really good design initially. And I sketched it out yesterday. I was just doing some character sketches from the book, and I sketched it out, and it's fun to draw. It's a good costume, but you have to, I think, especially in a modern, not that Invincible is not a modern book already, but in an updated 2021 telling of that story, you've got to do a little more to like make that costume more like age sensitive, at the very least. Because the character they're like 17 or something.
Yeah, I do. I think that is an improvement for sure. And again, it's like, yeah, at the time it was a little more the kind of thing you'd see in every comic, but it might have raised an eyebrow. And they also, I like that they address it in the series as well. They have like they kind of voice it, and she says like some villain makes fun of her for it, even though it is now athletic shorts, and she says like I made this costume, so it's I thought it was good the way they handled it.
Interesting.
One of the characters that they really translated directly from the comic was Robot.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. He's also one of my favorite characters.
Oh, he's phenomenal. I love Robot in that book.
Yeah, he's very cool.
Yeah, I don't think we can have an Invincible discussion without bringing up Cory Walker at all, who is just an absolute standout artist in his own right.
He's the master of modern superhero costume designs, and we've talked about him in our own like discussions outside of the show a lot.
Yeah.
Because he's just, you know, I think we all reference him if we're ever looking to design or redesign a superhero costume. Like he's the guy to look at. It's just incredible what he does.
Robot's design is fucking great.
Yeah, it's really funny looking. It's got like a really funny anatomy to it and skull, and it's bronze and green. Like that's not a color scheme that normally works for me, but for him, it's so perfect.
Yeah, I love it when I see a costume that shouldn't work, but it does. You know?
Yeah, that's definitely one. The colors, at least.
Yeah, or design or anything, you know. It's like, how'd they pull that off?
Are you guys big fans of Robert Kirkman and his work as a whole?
Oh yeah.
Matt, I know you had mentioned to us before with your introduction to Invincible that you also were starting Walking Dead at the same time.
Yeah, but I didn't finish yet. 31 or 32 volume.
Oh wow.
Oh, well, that is a lot. That's a lot more than I've read of it.
Yeah, I have not read all of Walking Dead.
But I don't like the show. I just like the comics. The TV show is not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The show I think started really well. Really liked the show when it first came out, but it sort of fell off.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, well, it's the problem with that. I was a big fan of the show as well. That how many seasons of television can you watch where we find a safe haven, but then we find out it's not as safe as we thought, and then the zombies break in, and there's a bad guy who's a human that we have to deal with, and then we're on the run again, and now we're fine. And then the next season we find a new place and we think it's safe, but then there are some suspicious people around, and then the monsters break through, and there's a bad guy who's a human we have to deal with. It's every season was the same thing.
The problem with that show, not to go on about the Walking Dead TV show too long, is that like eventually the zombies are just a background, and they're not actually the threat. And I feel like the zombies need to be sort of like, you know, in the foreground for at least more in the foreground. I get there's also going to be like piece of shit humans around, but they need to be more in the foreground than they kind of get to be eventually.
Yeah, they're really just nothing by the end, or by now in the show. Very quickly they turn into just barely an inconvenience, I think.
Yeah, they're just part of the scenery, which I mean, I guess kind of makes sense, and I don't, in theory, dislike that, but I think maybe in execution, I don't like it.
Yeah, just wasn't done amazingly.
And I think there was an Outcast show as well.
There was.
I didn't watch it. It came out and I didn't hear anything about it, so I assumed it wasn't very good, which is a shame because and Johnny, I know you're in the same boat as me. Like I love Outcast.
Yeah. I love it too. It's so good.
Yeah. No, I'm sure I can see that like Paul has a Azaceta influence in your work as well.
Yeah, it's really good. Outcast
it's really creepy.
Oblivion Song is all the Robert Kirkman work it's good.
Yeah, he's a man.
Podcast.
He's solid. I think Kirkman is a solid like world builder and storyteller. He's a great comics writer in that way.
He is, I think, one of the true standouts within comic book writing within the last several decades. Like if you were to chronicle like a Mount Rushmore of every decade, and there was one figurehead at the top of each decade, he'd definitely be one of them for the 2000s, if not the
Yeah,
one.
no, it would be insane to leave him out. With us, like, even though we've all griped a little about the show, even like just The Walking Dead, like, really changed, like, brought a different. It just changed comics being like made into TV shows. Like, that is now.
Yeah.
And it was
way
the
more
first
regular.
successful horror comic, and I mean, like forever.
Yeah, and he did, like I was saying,
Yeah.
he did the same thing with Outcast. I was really shocked when I was reading Outcast, even like the first couple of issues. I was like, this is like creepy. This is quite
Yeah.
scary. And I never get that really with horror comics often.
Well, Matt, while we have you, I know you're working on a book right now, and I was wondering if you wanted to spotlight your book at this time. Tell us a little bit what it's about. I've seen the cover
Yeah, I'd
for
love
it.
to hear about it.
The cover is
Yeah.
phenomenal that you've shared with the world on Instagram.
Yeah, hell
But
yeah, hell
what can
yeah.
you tell us about this
Yeah,
book that you're
yeah.
working on?
Thanks. Yeah, I can talk about it. It's a comics written by Marco Silva. He's a Portuguese author, and the book it's a sci-fi comic book about a young man who goes on a journey of exploration and self-discovery in Australia.
Ooh, nice.
And there are some robots that act like father's figures to the main character. And yeah, it's sci-fi, but with a more wild and nature setting.
Yeah, I'm about that.
Nice. Yeah, I got that vibe from the cover as well. That cover you did is
Yeah.
really, really good.
Are you penciling and inking the book?
Yeah. I do all the art, the pencil and
Nice.
inking.
Is it going to be colored?
It's colored by a Portuguese artist too.
Nice.
It's Sofia Pereira.
Okay, cool. Check it out.
How much time do you take for one page when you're working?
I can get it to like excluding colors, I can do pencils and inks on a page in a day. If I'm doing like I can do like on a decent day I can do a page a day of pencils and inks.
Yeah.
I'm the
As
same
long as I'm
way.
not having any problems with like figuring stuff out. As long as I know what I'm doing and I have a good idea of it, I can get a page a day done.
Yeah. I'm trying to do one page per day
Mhm.
because I saw that American comic book artists do 20 page a month.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if it's a rule or
Yeah, I don't know about a rule. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know. What do you guys know about it? Whether it's like a hard and fast rule or.
I think it's just an industry standard in the sense that if you're working for a publisher, let's just say Marvel or DC for that matter, you have a deadline that's going to be made, and a book is on average 22 to 28 pages, right? And so to consistently put out a book each month, you kind of have to keep to that schedule of I have to get approximately one page out per day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know, like, you know, going back to Walking Dead, like Charlie Adler, when he was working on that book, I watched an interview with him once where he said he gets really anxious if he doesn't pencil 3 pages a day.
Oh God.
And he was on a panel with I can't remember who else was there. Like Tommy Lee Edwards was there, and Tommy Lee Edwards was like, "Jesus Christ, man."
Yeah, that's insane.
Right?
Slow down, dude. But yeah,
Yeah.
Charlie Adler, he was just like, that's just part of my workflow. I like to get, when I'm penciling, I like to get 3 pages penciled in a day. So yeah, I mean, everyone like kind of changes it up, but I would say like a page a day, at least penciling would be kind of standard. And then, of course, if you can work faster than that, by all means do. But I also don't think it's like a huge detriment if you're moving slower than that, as long as you're not doing like a page every couple of weeks. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I think there are definitely some artists out there, like some very established artists, who probably take a lot longer, and like a lot of it is because they're just they work the fuck out of some of their pages, and it kind of shows. So I think it just depends on the artist a lot of the time, doesn't it?
yeah, because there's some of like the more painterly guys that there's no way.
Yeah, no way.
But they're also not working on monthly books most of the time.
Yeah.
Do I think Alex Ross paints a page a day? No.
Yeah.
Takes him 4 days a page. I know that.
Really?
Yeah. Which is
that guy
that's
produces a lot of
fast.
work, though.
Yeah, that's really fast.
Well, guys, if you're ready for it, we can start jumping around and check out where everybody got to during the course of this episode. But
Oh
Nate,
no, I'm not done.
Oh, Nate, I was gonna call to you, man. I was gonna call to you because I see all that rubble down there.
Yeah. No, I'm ready. Let's do it.
You're up, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I knew I wasn't gonna finish. I got a little carried away. The rubble was not my priority for the show. I wanted to get a little bit more into this close-up, sort of like super beaten up portrait of Mark. And I outlined it, but I didn't get into the bruises and blood. But I got quite a bit done. I'm pretty happy with how much I got done. I need to add some rendering here on his abs. But yeah, I'm digging this. Me and Mike were kind of talking about this before the show. I had a big question on how much spot black I wanted to do on his costume, and I've done more than I set out to do. So there's going to be some whiteout coming. But yeah, pretty happy with it. So far so good, as they say.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, I'm digging it. I'm really looking forward to finishing it, but my brushes are getting real either dry or watery, so I'm gonna have to let them kind of sit for a second.
Well, it's beautiful, man. I really love the bottom panel too as a continuation sequentially of the first one. I think it flows really well.
I wanted him to just roll over. He says "damn it" in the first panel, and then at the bottom he just rolls kind of over on the rubble. And I just like used a reference photo of myself like laying on my bed. I was like, how do I lay on my bed with my pillows? And this is it. Hopefully I'm not beat up when I do it. But yeah, and then he just says "ow," and that's it.
That's great.
You did the pencils digitally?
Yeah, I penciled it digitally yesterday in Adobe Fresco, and I'm laying down inks with my Raphael 8404 number 2 and number 4, which is I think what you're using, right?
I'm using the number 2.
Yeah, man, that's my favorite. That's one of my favorite brushes. That and the Winsor Newton number 3 are my favorite brushes.
I was saying it's my first brush.
Really well. It meshes with your drawing style super well.
Cool.
Well, speaking of Matt's drawing, to jump over, Matt, we're going to spotlight your piece real quick. But how far did you get in your drawing?
Well, I'm almost there. I need to do the face, this boot. Maybe. Okay.
Oh man, yeah, those shadows are looking great though. Really good.
But that's all new. Normally I don't do so much black, but I'm trying to put more black in my art because
Yeah.
Really?
Sometimes when I'm etching, when I feathering, it looks too soft.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it, but it looks the shadows looks too soft, and it's lack contrast.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Well, Matt, it's turning out great, my friend. But
Yeah.
we heard from Johnny Wise. Johnny, what change did you make in your piece?
Well, I won't go all the way back, but I can show you anyway. You'll be able to see it. So basically, I didn't get that far into this one, but I knew I wasn't gonna, because hang on, I'll show you. There's a lot to go with this. There's like all of the Guardians of the Globe just lying around him that I didn't do. I was I guess it's one of the things I really like doing on this show is just you can just play around a little bit. So I started drawing his face and just started doing like almost all of my feathering and like just doing one long zigzag, basically. Like you can see it there. It's all a lot like that. It's all just there. And it was kind of just because I was having fun with the way it feels. Like the shadow there, I was happy with that one. And then I just started to do it more and more and did it for all of the figure. And then I've got done with the leg and I was just like, this is too much now. You can still kind of see it, like the other leg is like in shadow and it's shaded like that leg. So it's all just like a million zigzaggy lines on it. And I was like, that doesn't work. So then I did a lot more spot black on that leg. And I'm going to go back to a lot of other parts of the figure that should be more black and chuck in a little bit more. Because it was kind of the same as what you were saying there, Matt. I zoomed out and like when you do that for the whole figure, just none of it is like, it's not very hard hitting. It's all just a little bit feathery and just so it was an experiment that didn't work out too well, but it was fun. And now I know. So I got to this point. I'm pretty happy with how Omni-Man is looking right now.
Oh yeah, man.
I really like his expression here. I like his scowl. And the way
I love his hair. His hair is so good.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, I was happy with his hair as well. As soon as I saw he has like the gray temples and the way his hair kind of go, I was excited to do it. I like drawing hair a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with it so far. Like I say, there's quite a bit to go. Hopefully it won't be a disaster. It won't go horribly wrong. I'm most excited just to do that little bit there. Fish head on the stick. That's the bit I want to do most.
Well, Johnny, it's turning out great, my friend, and I don't think you're going to have that doom and gloom towards the end of the piece. I think it's phenomenal, and I'm just in awe of this one. Great work.
Oh man, thank you, buddy. Excited to finish it.
But guys, to check out Todd, who is also doing something a little out of the norm. Todd, how's your Invincible?
Yeah. It's going all right. I basically just kind of rendered what I already had, so I don't know if a whole lot's happened. And I just realized that black isn't fading into the background because of all the light I put in there. So yeah.
Such a great pose, though. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's
I
a great
wanted
pose.
it to be one of those traditional Steve Rude, Garcia Lopez.
Yeah,
kind of,
right.
Swimming, flying looking things. I looked at divers and I actually couldn't find any poses that I liked at all. And I think I have his hand pointed in the wrong direction. I think it should be thumb down. I was looking at it.
I was gonna say
that was my intention.
I really like that it is this like palm up kind of a thing, because that's you don't really see that often. Superheroes are always flying palms down.
Yeah, I like it. It looks very swimming-y.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a word.
Swimmer-esque.
It is now.
Yeah, there we go. That's better than swimming-y.
It's swimming-y. It's swimming-y. That's what we're going with.
Women with four-legged women.
Well, Todd, I'm glad to see that it's going swimmingly, my friend.
Definitely pulls way back from from the Falcon piece. So
from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, right.
But man, it's looking great, and I'm of course excited to see how it turns out in finality, because I don't know if you're gonna be driving it on the road right now and then veer left into the woods and take it down a path we're not expecting.
Very much so might happen. Yes. Stay tuned.
But guys, to round out our 5-man band here, I got fairly far in the line work.
Yeah, man.
I have the car done, and Omni-Man and Invincible
Oh,
done
yeah.
here, and even the splash insert panel of Omni-Man's face right there I've gotten done.
Hell
But
yeah.
I've got a lot of work left in front of me in terms of getting this park behind me. I know Nate and I were talking about it before we started recording, but I drew a fountain in here. I've never drawn a fountain before. I can't even think of any visual reference for water fountaining like that.
It's hard.
Yeah, so I'm really going to be challenging myself on that one. But yeah, just really loving this piece. And it really makes me remind myself of why I love drawing superheroes. And it's this. This is just so much fun.
Yeah.
The action, the dynamics, the costumes, it's all just so much fun. So I'm having a real blast on this one.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Thank you. But guys, that just about wraps up this episode 26 of Ink, Drink, Think. Again, special thanks to Matthew Pereira, guys, our special guest for tonight.
Thanks.
Make sure you check out the description of this video, guys. You can find the links to Matt's Instagram page where you can find his phenomenal artwork. We're also going to try to link to any other website he might have or online portfolio if he has one. Anywhere you can find Matt's book when it's available, we will link that in the description below, guys. But you can also find the links to all of our individual Instagram pages as well as the official Instagram page for Ink, Drink, Think, where you can check out every piece for every episode of Ink, Drink, Think thus far. All from this episode.
Every piece ever, dude.
Every drawing ever created is on the Ink, Drink, Think Instagram page.
That's right.
But no, guys, like I said, this is episode 26. Make sure you go back and check out every previous 25 episode of Ink, Drink, Think. It's a fun show. If you had fun tonight, you'll probably enjoy the rest of them. But until episode 27, guys, I've been your host, Michael Pickard, joined by my wonderfully talented co-hosts and friends and special guests, Johnny Wise, Nate Wells, Todd Blackwood, and Matt Pereira. We'll catch you guys in the next one.